الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. If one were to pose the question, if one was asked the question, what is the secret to life? Not necessarily the secret to wealth, but what is the secret to living a peaceful life? A life full of fulfillment, a life full of peace, comfort, fulfillment, ease. Then depending on the person's background and the person's values, you will get different answers. So if you ask a little child, for example, what type of a life do you think is a life full of fulfillment, happiness, success? What type of a life would you truly enjoy, and do you think people truly enjoy? Then he may tell you, I think a life full of fulfillment and comfort is living a life like an athlete, a professional athlete. Perhaps he loves playing basketball or he loves playing tennis. He'll tell you, imagine if I could play this sport for life. I got paid for playing this. I could take care of my family for doing what I love. What type of a life could be better than that? You ask another person and then he'll say, no, for me, I think after living a few years of life, I came to the understanding that having, financial comfort and backing, that's a comfortable life. If you have $1 million stored away and you are affluent and you don't need to worry about anything, then that's a comfortable life. If you ask someone else, they'll tell you it's not about doing what you enjoy. It's not about having this financial backing and support, comfort. It lies in one's family. If you don't have a well-knit, nice family, then you can be enjoying life outside, but no sooner will you come home than everything just comes crashing down to the ground. You come back to reality. Rather, true happiness, success, comfort, it all lies in having a well-knit family. So now each person, depending on his background and his values and his experiences in life, he will have a different answer. But who understands the answer to this question better than the creator of life himself? الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ. And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the answer. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, بعد أن أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبًا. If you're looking for that life of comfort, that pleasant life, the life where you can enjoy every moment of it, then there is no such life except for that person who does righteous deeds whilst being a believer. Except for that person who does righteous deeds along with being a believer. وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ. Then فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبًا. Then we will most definitely grant him a pleasant life. Why? If you look back at this situation, look back at these scenarios, a person, he will enjoy perhaps playing basketball or enjoy playing tennis or enjoy playing baseball or whatever sport he enjoyed playing. But no sooner does he get an injury than his whole entire career falls apart. Or perhaps you only have fun so long as you're winning, and then you lose one game, it's no longer fun. Now you lost all of your fans, you lost all of your support, you lost so many different backings. It's no longer fun anymore. Or perhaps you have wealth. Regardless if a person has wealth, sometimes you find those people who are the most wealthiest are still the same individuals who are reverting back to drugs. The same individuals who are taking their lives, because there's no peace and comfort in that. Then perhaps someone may say, no, it's not even in that, it's in fame and popularity. Same story over there too. And then you have, what about those individuals who have a nice, well-knit, comfortable family, but then death is also going to enter that family. And what was once a very happy family is now, they're all going to be full of sorrow because someone passed away. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that true everlasting happiness, success, comfort, a pleasant life, truly worth living, is that life where a person is, number one, has iman, and number two, does righteous deeds. That's the only life wherein everlasting success, happiness, comfort, and peace is promised. And this is the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because it's only a believer who truly understands whatever difficulty I'm going through, this is because my Rabb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has tested me with it. Yesterday, many of us who performed Taraweeh Salah, then we all came across the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنْ. Even Ibrahim alayhi salam had to go through the greatest of difficulties, the greatest of trials. But it's all about our mindset, and it's about how we deal with these issues and these problems. Does it take us to the brink of committing suicide when we realize and we feel that there is no hope? Or does it rather trigger something within us so that we realize that no, this is not the end of the world. This is nothing but a small test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibrahim alayhi salam was like that. He was tested, number one, first when it came to his own family members, his own father, standing up to his own father who is his sole supporter, the one who took care of him, provided for him. When it came now, when push came to shove and he had to stand up for the truth, then he stood up for the truth. And it was a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which he had to go through, which was extremely difficult. But he passed that. Then the next test came now, standing up to his people. And they were about to torture him to such an extent they were going to throw him in. They did throw him into a huge blazing fire. But still too, he stood through at that test. He didn't just allow that to completely ruin his mood. He didn't give up when that test came. And then so on and so forth, so many different tests. But still, he stood through every single one of them. That's why Allah mentions, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Remember when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنْ. And he passed those tests with flying colors. Then only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. Now because you have passed all these tests, I'm going to make you an imam. So from here we understand a huge lesson, that we are definitely going to be tested, and when we get tested, this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is either going to elevate us, like He elevated Ibrahim alayhi salam, or this is when we are going to fail the test. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions with regards to such individuals who ignore the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who give up in the hope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكَ وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. That on one hand you have those individuals who they believe and they apply themselves and they do the best of their abilities to do righteous deeds. And then on the other hand you have those who adopt an attitude when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if they are blind of everything and ignoring everything. A no-care attitude. وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي. Allah mentions such a person who adopts a no-care attitude. He turns away from my remembrance and he doesn't care. فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكَ. Then surely, most definitely, such a person will live a very difficult life. It will become extremely difficult for him. وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. Let alone the punishments of the hereafter. The next question that should come into our mind is that, okay, this is the attitude of a believer, but what does this mean? وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ. One is having iman. Alhamdulillah, we all have iman. Those that are sitting here today, we are only here because we have iman. What about the next portion? Man amila salihan. What does righteous actions, what do they constitute? What does it make? What is it made up of? This is inshallah what we'll be discussing over the few days, the short few days that we have. Ultimately, it comes down to this one point. Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Another direct address to us. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. O you who have iman. Istajibu lillahi wa lirrasuli idha da'akum lima yuhikum. Respond to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when they call you towards that which revives you. Respond to the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when they invite you towards that which revives you. Every single command, every single teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and instruction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such that it actually brings purpose into our life. Every single instruction is such that it rekindles our spirits and it grants us a newfound purpose in life. If we understand and if we pondered about it. And these things are such things that have to be learned, that have to be discussed. And there's no other way around that. So inshallah over the few few days that we have, we will go over a few of these etiquettes, a few of these instructions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And perhaps we may discuss them in a little bit more detail so that we can ultimately revive our spirits and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with purpose. And worship Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and obey the commandments of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and then inshallah find a newfound spirit in our life, a new direction in our lives. Sometimes we feel a person goes through different stages in life. You have qabd and you have bast. Sometimes a person he feels very disconnected from Allah, and sometimes you feel very connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever we feel disconnected, then the answer lies in going back, making ruju' to the commandments of Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We'll find many a times when we feel like we're lost, we have no purpose in life, how much Qur'an are we reciting? That is why, or how much dhikr are we making? Or how much tilawa, or how many different ahadith are we reciting? Or with regards to what we have learned, how much are we actually implementing in our lives? That's why when he enters the month of Ramadan, generally a person, they feel, when they finish the month of Ramadan, every single person will tell you, if you ask them on average, how do you feel spiritually? Do you feel more connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or do you feel less connected? On average, you'll find, inshallah, 99.99999% of people are going to say, no, I feel more connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because this is the month wherein you are connecting back to all the various different a'mal. When it comes to the recitation of the Qur'an, when it comes to the fact that you're fasting, when it comes to the fact that you're performing extra salats, you're making extra dua, you're making extra dhikr, you're sacrificing solely for the sake of Allah, naturally, of course you have to feel better. So similarly, when it comes to any command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any instruction of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if we do it and we bring it into our lives, then we will find that we will have truly a new type of spirit. We'll feel so much more connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and we'll find a new purpose in life. So over the few days, inshallah, this is what we are going to be discussing. A few of these various different etiquettes, a few of these various different principles that we can, inshallah, bring into our lives. And when we do bring them into our lives, inshallah, we will most definitely find a difference. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.